My name is Posey Obrecht and I'm the Manor race director. My first Manor race must have been about a month after I was born. Been coming ever since, so been out there a long time. The Manor race is really special to me. Obviously growing up in Maryland around the timber scene was great, and for my family, my parents actually got engaged at the Manor races way back in the day, and then growing up they would have a big tent with all their family and friends, and that was definitely a good time. I think this one is different. Well, it's the first of the big three with the Grand National and the Hunt Cup following, and those races are over in kind of Green Spring Valley. This one is over in Moncton in Harford County, which is different. And so over here they definitely like to have a good time. So the Manor's definitely a big party. Hundreds of people tailgating, whether on the rail or in general in subscriber parking, so it's definitely a lot of fun. I think because it is the first big race of the spring, you know, a lot of trainers run here to see what type of horse they have, if they have a Hunt Cup horse or if they have a horse that's going to run in the Grand National. So it's pretty awesome to get great horses in here to see what they got for the spring. This year's Manor race, I hope it is a beautiful day. I hope a lot of people come out and support, and I hope all the horses and jockeys jump around well and everyone has a good time.
My name is Jay Young. I am currently the president of the Manor Foundation, which is the organization that has this year for the first time taken over the management of the race from Ladue Gardens. Ladue had run the race for at least 25 or 30 years. Their number of events has gotten so large, and this race is not really in the wheelhouse of a topiary garden. So they turned the race over to us, and we formed this new foundation to operate the race. That organization is intended to promote things that this race celebrates. So promotes land preservation. We'd also like to try to perpetuate agriculture. These properties are all preserved, and farmers are having more and more challenges and having their children sort of take over and assume farming businesses and things that we want to try to promote, you know, future farmers and organizations that promote agriculture among youngsters. There are a lot of moving parts on a race like this. There are people concerned with horses and injuries and jockeys and injuries and spectators. We had somebody have a medical event last year in the middle of the crowd, and managing all of that, you have to be prepared for everything. And those are just the logistics of the race itself. And then this is a massive entertainment venue, so you have 13 corporate tents with dozens and dozens of people in each tent that are being entertained by their sponsors. So we have to make sure they're happy, make sure they're safe, make sure they can see the race. We have a jumbotron, we have television coverage, we have video, audio. You know, we're trying to make this a great experience for everybody so that they get a feel for what we do and can appreciate steeplechase racing and hopefully get more interested in it. I hope everybody is safe. I'd love to make a lot of money so that we can, you know, do the charitable things that we hope to be able to do. I hope the weather is good, because that's the one thing. You're at the mercy of the gods, and you can plan. We've been working on this for a year now. I'm here tonight for a meeting. We'll meet every Monday night between now and the races just to address all the issues that can come up. And then all that can go to hell if it rains for 3 days before the race. So that's the most important thing, is I hope we have a nice day.
My name is Gustav Dahl. I'm a professional steeplechase jockey. I work for the Vosses and have done the past 4 or 5 years. Manor races have always been right here every spring, so it's always a big event for the community as well as my profession. My first Manor race was back when I was 17. I just started riding the previous fall as an amateur, and I rode a horse for Karen Gray. We came up from Tennessee. I wasn't too sure of all of the rules, and I was very light at the time, so I was carrying a lot of lead, which is not the case now. But I set my tack down on the ground after I untacked the horse to talk to the trainer about how the race went down, which is a big no-no. So I got slapped with a $500 fine for setting my tack on the ground before I weighed back in. It's a very testing track. It's 3 miles uphill, jumping very big, serious fences. You want to be very precise and accurate with your jumping, but you also want a very staying horse that can get the trip, especially with the long uphill pulls. The biggest challenge is just sort of finding what stock that I'm available to ride that it's going to suit the race course, because it is so testing with its fences and its uphill pulls the whole way through the 3 miles. In the Maryland racing community, it's the first leg of what they call the Triple Crown. You have the Milady's Manor, the Grand National, and then the Maryland Hunt Cup. So it's fun to see the first crop of what horses are going to be trying to do that throughout the spring. I've been in the community for the past 4 or 5 years, and just to see the community get together for the one big day, I mean, everyone talks about it for the entire year.
Hi, my name is Bill Pierce. I'm the great-grandson of Charles Morgan Pierce, one of the 4 original founders of the Manor races that included himself, John Myers Pierce, Walter Hutchins, and John Rush Street. The original race was scheduled to be run on April 9th, 1909. Unfortunately, John Rush Street, while checking the hoof of one of his favorite fox hunters, managed to get himself kicked in the face. So the race was postponed until April 24th for the inaugural running. I have been coming to the races my entire life. It's always been fun to be a spectator, and then Attorney McKnight recruited me some 15 years ago to be on the committee, and I've been a part of the day-to-day operations, or race day operations, ever since. It's with a great sense of pride that I'm involved in the Manor races to this date, 2018. My great-grandfather and his buddies who started the race will be very proud that, 1, the family's still involved, and 2, that it's still a thriving race in the Mid-Atlantic area. Many people ask, how did the Manor races get their name? Well, the area that we live in is known as My Lady's Manor, Lord Baltimore's gift, deeded 1713. My Lady's Manor, a gift of 10,000 acres by the land of Lord Baltimore III to his wife Margaret, Lady Baltimore, in 1713. So, ever since, the area has been known as My Lady's Manor, hence the name, the Manor races. One of our most prized family heirlooms is the very first trophy, awarded in 1909 to my great-grandfather, who just happened to win the race, his horse named Kitty West, ridden by Lake Hutchins. To the left of the trophy, you'll see the man in the Derby, Charles Morgan Pierce, conferring with his cousin John Myers Pierce at a later Manor race date.
My name is Willie Dowling. I'm a steeplechase trainer here in Maryland, and I'm looking forward to running some horses in My Lady's Manor this spring. The Manor is a big part of steeplechasing in this area. It's it's one of the first meets on our spring calendar for steeplechase. For the timber horses, it's when the big boys really come out, because it's kind of like our stepping stone for the spring. It gives you an idea what direction you're going to send your horses for the rest of the year. If you're going to think about going to the Grand National or the Hunt Cup, or if you're going to start going back towards the Gold Cup, it's a very fair course. A lot of horses prep for different races at the Manor. That's what makes it so unique. Yeah, I think last year was our breakthrough season to win 2 on the day at the Manor. It was kind of nice to have people talking about our small barn. I had one of my amateurs, Justin, who owns this horse, Class Indian. He's an amateur rider, and for him to win on his local track was a big deal. And we had 2 wins on the day, which is very exciting. Here we go, we got Class Indian winning at the Manor last year with Justin Beethoff up on board, and above him we have a Naturally Won, which is owned by local owner Mike Hankin, and he was ridden by an English jockey, Hayden Frost, on the day.
Michael Finney, and I operate a store, it's a gallery called Yoicks, and I am the race day announcer at the Manor races. It's really it's the first races that I was involved with here, and you know, never forget your first love. I feel at home there. I feel a sense of, before trying to call the Manor races early on, and I was pretty bad at it because most people are when you get started, especially if you only do it a couple of times a year. And the fact that Attorney had the patience to put up with me when I wasn't very good. It's a place that allowed me eventually over time to require some basic competence doing it. And to do it, the first place I lived was at Bonnie White's place, which is, you know, if you're feeling really strong, not much more than a stone's throw away. And the first place that when I got married and moved here was the Cuckoo's Nest right across the street, where on a bad day you can throw a rock and hit the race course. So I feel at home there. One year, Attorney helped me write a race that was an amateur fox hunters race, and it was a little difficult to write and hard to administer. And, I had a partnership horse at that point called Prospector Strike that Rachel Lively had found and trained, and unfortunately about 3 weeks prior to that we had lost a very qualified Irish amateur, and we had to go looking for the next man up. And the kid had been riding, you know, out in the mornings and was very gung-ho. Justin Batoff, we, you know, put him in the spot, and the week before at Elkridge Hartford, despite some early trouble, he managed to go on and win the race. And can't chalk him off now. You can't take off a winner. So with all the other things going on, he got out there and did what he did. He took him out to the front, followed his instructions, improved his position from there. And it's interesting, if you're trying to call a race objectively and at the same time you have a very profound personal interest in what's happening in terms of the horse and the kid. I probably was doing as much coaching as I was announcing. And for instance, when they got to the Jarrettsville Pike, where they really rolled down that hill, I was giving him instruction as much as I was calling the race. And now he's going to let the horse roll as they head down the Jarrettsville Pike. I still have fun when I listen to the race, and given the context, it's a lot of fun. It's always fun when it works. It's always fun to win, but to do it with with Justin and Rachel and get your picture taken, it's a lot of fun. I think the initial thing is it is really more of a Harford County thing than a Baltimore County thing. There are a lot of folks that, if they're only going to one race in that direction, that's the race they'll go to, and there's a real sense of local pride in the Manor. A lot of guys who care about the other races. It's Manor Race Day, so it really is. It has its own character. You'll see, if you're talking about the paddock and the people running, it's essentially the same group of people. But outside of that, it has a slightly different character than the other two. I love to, when I find them, pick up pictures that are either I like the images or are evocative. And I thought about it. There are actually a few Manor pictures that I'm. Let's start with that one. That is our former chairman of, I can't remember how many years, of a remarkable tenure as the chairman, Attorney McKnight. This is the old course, following Russell Jones on Jacko, who was a Hunt Cup winner. So it goes back to the point that one side or the other, you get a lot of the same horses either way. In terms of the democratic nature of the day, I love this picture. It's everybody by the paddock, and there's Mimi Voss, and I'm not sure, maybe Jen Voss next to her. Different people who've seen this picture can pick out who these folks are, but snow fence is up, there's the paddock, and paddock looks a little different now. It's a little glossier. We've got dedicated fence for it now, but I think that describes what I was saying as far as the day and the open nature of the crowd. And this one is just an awful lot of fun. This is L.A. Randall, waves his horse Montiar to victory over Blockade. And again, there's a 3-time Hunt Cup winner, not getting it done at the Manor. And you got to love his exuberance. I mean, I'm not sure that you could get that close to the finish anymore, which is probably a good thing. But he is certainly absolutely committed to his horse's success.
My name is Justin Batoff, and I am an amateur jockey, but since nobody pays me to ride their horses, I'm also an attorney as my day job. My first Manor race was my first race. It was my first year riding, and that would have been 2008 or 2009. And it was a particularly special day. While we were on the podium at the end of the day, that's always a good place to be. It wasn't a sanctioned race. It was actually the Yoiks Cup. But you wouldn't have known that there was no money on the line or it wasn't a sanctioned race by how excited I was to cross the finish line. I don't think it was a pretty race, but finished on top of the horse, and the best part of it was Michael Finney on the mic. He definitely was a little biased on that race, as he was a part owner of the horse that I was riding with me, and it was the start of my amateur riding career and a really special day. It really is the litmus test of where you've been in training, and tells you a lot about where you're going for the rest of the season. So each race in Baltimore, the Manor, the Grand National, the Maryland Hunt Cup, the fences get bigger, and the Manor is a great spot, especially for me as an amateur rider, to get to knock the dust off, to know where your horse is and where you are as a rider. In particular, what I love about the Manor course is it's got hills, so when you're getting run off with, you can use those hills to help you slow down. The fences are just perfect where they're placed, and what I love about the beginning of that race in particular is you don't feel like you're in a race. You feel like you're just out fox hunting, and it's quiet at the start, and then you come up the hill and the crowd is there and everyone's cheering, and the spectators can be right up against the rail and really feel like they're a part of the race. And then you go around the tower, and you go by all the tents, all the people that are just having a fantastic time, and it really has a little bit of everything. It's a beautiful race course, preserved land. It is more casual than the other races, in my opinion. And that's what's so special about the Manor. It might be further away than the Grand National, the Maryland Hunt Cup, but it draws people from all over, and not just from Baltimore, because it just has this just country fun feel on the day. So there's a lot more wall space that needs to be filled, but we were talking earlier about my favorite day at the Manor. This was our first run on Prospector Strike, owned by myself and Michael Finney, and my first win on a horse. And then this was last year at the Manor, the Shapiro on Class Indian. 2 really special days. This is Prospector Strike, painted by Sam Robinson in the Benjamin Murray. You can tell he's a great artist because at that time I did not know how to ride a finish. My brains are all over the place. I'm getting there, but still a little more work to do. And this was the take-home prize from the Shapiro last year, and I hope it'll be in this spot again next year. Knock on wood.
All right, so Jack Fisher, I am a trainer. I'm also co-chair of the Manor races with Ross Pierce. As far as the chairman part goes, Ross is more the guy than I am. Jay Young is head of the Manor Foundation, so he's kind of like Ladue Gardens. he controls with the purse strings, and Bob Kingsley is doing the course, and Chuck Giddings is kind of the man that does everything. I mean, he's very organized, and Turney's still giving us a little bit of a hand, and Heather. And then we have Posey Obrecht as our executive director, and she's the organized one. So that's what I do. The little race is named after like my great uncle or something, John R. Street, who was my grandmother's brother who rode races. So, and also the Hunt Club was my grandmother's parents' place. The Manor races kind of open up the spring season, and horses that run there also, they'll do the Maryland races, but they'll also do the Virginia races too. So you have a lot of horses from Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, even South Carolina. South Carolina, it's amazing that there was a trainer out there, Arch Kingsley, who had a horse for the Manor in Camden. They just have this little hill. It's only about a race of 50 feet. And to get him ready for the hill of the Manor, he was galloping this horse up this little bump, you know, like 20 times or something to get him ready. I'm like, that's not even close to the hill of the Manor. For me, I love the Manor because it's a nice flowing course. I think the fences are fair. When you get to the Grand National Hunt Cup, the fences get a little bit bigger. I think the Grand National, I think the fence is set up well for a horse, but I think they need to have some experience for that. And obviously the Hunt Cup is just a whole other can of worms. And the people, I live here, the people I train for live around here, they want to win the Manor races. My first Manor race was fabulous. I rode a horse of Frank Bonsel's. His name is Jaws, and Jaws and I fell at like the 5th from home, and I broke my collarbone. And the first time I broke my collarbone, and the first time you do it, it really hurts. Second time it hurts. Third time it's not so bad. But I basically thought I was going to die. I remember going in the ambulance to the hospital. It was not a good day. Well, it's my best and probably worst was I think we won all 3 races that day. And I had a horse, Saluda, that was a very good horse, another horse, Shiny Beacon, that my wife owned that Santa rode. And I remember telling her to follow me up the hill to the second to last, and she came with me, and we kind of started to open up on the field, but there was a horse out in front that was dying. And we got there, she was on the outside, the other horse on the inside, I'm in the middle, and these two went like that. He didn't fall, but it did set him back. But, you know, still, it's great to have, you know, 3 winners on the day.
My name's Ross Pierce. I'm currently the Maryland State Steward for flat racing at Laurel and Pimlico. I'm the co-chairman of the My Lady's Manor races with Jack Fisher. This is our first year taking over from the very capable footsteps of Turney McKnight. I rode the My Lady's Manor in 1975, and in the second year it was at the new course, which I believe was 79. My first Manor race I probably don't remember because I've been going to Manor races ever since I was a baby. They probably took me in a bassinet. Then when I was a kid, playing football in the cars, run over off J.M. Pierce Road. I also grew up with Steve and J.B. Secor, who were their estate was part of the race course along with J.M. Pierce's estate. And we grew up playing over there, so it's like going home. So the old course used to start way back in the corner by Polly Riggs's, come up the hill, and run along here. We cross the road here, and they put down tan bars. Actually, my grandfather, Ross Pierce, was head of getting the course ready for a time period. And there used to be a fence right here. We jump, and we go out to the Secors, and way out to that field, way out there, there's a jump by Manor Road, and it was, I think probably, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps out there, and we come back across here, we jump here, back down there along Marco Road, make a left about where we started, a little bit farther, and finish up down by Gordon Pierce's house. Come up down the bottom of that hill, and this used to be the stretch, and you'd finish wire was right there, about where that second house was. And your horses would gallop out. Sometimes, if you had a strong one, you'd go to the right. Sometimes you'd go to the left. Easy one to pull up. The course has changed, but I think it's a great course. The old course was nice, but the new course is equally as nice. We're keeping the open green spaces, and it's a beautiful race course. The fences are big enough that they give everybody a test, but they're not as big as the Maryland Hunt Cup, which is the ultimate test. So it's a stepping stone up. It preps you for the Maryland Hunt Cup. A lot of people also use it as a prep for the Virginia Gold Cup, because their fences aren't quite as big as the Maryland Hunt Cup and are probably about the same size as ours. It's a good race to get a horse fit. With the hills in it, the horses don't seem to be run off their feet. They take their time in the beginning of the race, going up and down the hills, jumping the fences, and seem to jump very well because of that. Where a flat course, the horses get going a little faster and sometimes don't jump quite as well. So it's a good race to get the ball rolling in the springtime. I think the greatest challenge is with the challenge we all have around the My Lady's Manor is keeping the green spaces open. We do a great job of keeping future generations able to have the same kind of life that we had growing up and our ancestors had. And it's a great life. It's filled with animals and horses, and it really needs to continue. A lot of people can enjoy these wide open spaces and see horse racing and the beautiful colors of the jockey silks and have a nice day out in the country, and we're able to do that by keeping the Manor race alive. All I hope for this year is that Jack and I and Jay and Bob and Chuck and Posey have a successful meet that's equal to what Turney has done for the last 30 years, and keep the tradition going.